The galaxy was vast. Endless stars, countless planets, and millions of civilizations, some advanced, some struggling, some forgotten. Yet not every being mattered equally. Power, wealth, and influence determined who received protection and who was left to suffer. In one corner of this enormous galaxy, a group of small, peaceful species struggled to survive. They had done nothing wrong. They had no armies, no powerful allies, no resources to offer the galactic powers, and that made them expendable. On the world of Arvella, a small blue and green planet orbiting a quiet sun, the inhabitants looked to the skies with fear. Their cities, once shining towers of glass and energy, were now dim with despair. Families huddled in shelters as distant fleets passed through orbit, inspecting and evaluating. They were unimportant, the galaxy said. No one would help them. Among them, the Eldari, a species known for their delicate wings and luminous eyes, tried to keep hope alive. Their leaders sent messages to every galactic council they could reach. They pleaded for help, for intervention, for someone, anyone, to stop the looming threat of the Dominion, a ruthless coalition of empires that had claimed hundreds of worlds already. But the galaxy turned away. They said, "These worlds do not matter, their loss is irrelevant." And then something unexpected happened. Humanity arrived. Humans had not been in galactic politics for long. They were young, curious, and still learning the ways of the stars. Their ships were not the largest, their fleets not the most advanced. Yet humans had something no other species seemed to have anymore: compassion. Where others saw statistics and strategy, humans saw living beings. When they received the messages from the Eldari, they did not debate, they did not calculate risk, they acted. The first human fleet appeared like a ripple of silver light among the stars. Captain Mara Ellison, commanding the intrepid Horizon, looked down at the Arvellan world from orbit. She had heard the reports, read the intelligence briefings, and knew the risks. The Dominion fleets were massive, well-armed, and merciless. No other species dared interfere. And yet Mara did not hesitate. "They need us," she said simply, "and we won't leave them to die." Her crew exchanged uneasy glances. Many had never seen humans act without hesitation, without calculating cost first. But there was a quiet strength in Mara's words that carried conviction. Humanity was here to help, not to conquer, not to profit, simply to stand with those who had been abandoned. The first human landing teams touched down on Arvella under the pale light of its twin moons. They met with the Eldari elders who could barely hide their disbelief. You are here for us," one elder asked, her voice trembling. Mara smiled softly. "Yes, we don't leave people behind." The Eldari could not comprehend it. For centuries, they had believed the galaxy had no care for them. And now, humans, strangers from a distant system, were offering protection, guidance, and friendship. But hope alone could not defend Arvella. The Dominion had already begun their march through the sector. Their warships glided through space like predators, scanning for weak worlds to consume. When the first strike fleet approached Arvella, the humans did not retreat. They fought. Human engineers had spent weeks retrofitting the Eldari's old defense satellites, turning them into makeshift artillery platforms. Civilians were trained as support crews, learning to operate energy shields and repair drones. Humans were fearless, innovative, and unpredictable. They turned abandoned cargo ships into mobile fortresses. They used tactics no one else dared to try, and against all odds they held the line. But it was not easy. Explosions shook the skies, and the night was lit by fire. Eldari cities, once untouched, now bore the marks of war. Yet humans never wavered. When a Dominion strike team boarded a city, human defenders engaged with courage that astonished both friend and foe. Where others would have surrendered, humans found a way to fight. Where others would have fled, humans held their ground. One young human, Lieutenant Jonah Reyes, ran through the burning streets to save a group of Eldari children trapped in a collapsing building. He carried two at a time, ignoring the blasts that shook the air. His uniform was scorched, his boots torn, yet he never stopped. "Keep moving," he shouted. "We're getting out of here." By the end of the first day, Arvella had been battered but not broken. The Dominion had expected the humans to retreat, to abandon the defenseless Eldari. Instead, they faced something they had never truly understood: human resolve. In the council chambers of the Dominion flagship, admirals frowned. "They are only one species," one said. "One small, insignificant species interfering where it should not. They cannot possibly succeed." And yet, each report from the battlefield told a different story. Humans were unpredictable. They adapted faster than any enemy anticipated. They treated allies as equals, shared knowledge freely, and fought not for glory, but for life itself. Back on Arvella, the Eldari elders watched humans and their own people working side by side. They repaired shields, fortified walls, and trained in new strategies. "Why do they care?" asked one elder, her voice barely above a whisper. Mara Ellison stood beside her, looking at the horizon where smoke and starlight mixed. "Because we know what it's like to be abandoned, and we choose not to stay silent when others suffer. That is humanity. That is why we are here." For the first time in centuries, the Eldari felt hope. Hope that someone, somewhere in this vast, uncaring galaxy, believed their lives mattered. And that hope was dangerous. Dangerous because it could inspire others. Dangerous because it could ignite rebellion. Dangerous because it reminded the galaxy that abandoning the weak was no longer safe. But for now, the immediate danger remained. The Dominion would return. Their fleets were too large, too organized, to allow a simple human defense to last forever. And yet humanity refused to retreat. They made a choice that few others would dare make, to fight not for conquest but for justice. Night fell over Arvella, and the survivors, both Eldari and human, tended the wounded. Fires burned in the distance, smoke curling into the violet sky. Jonah Reyes, exhausted, sat beside a small Eldari child, her wings trembling. "We're safe for now," he said. The child nodded, not fully understanding but trusting the humans who had risked everything for her. Mara Ellison stood atop a hill overlooking the city. She knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy had abandoned these worlds once. It might try again. But as long as humans were here, no one would be left to face the stars alone. And somewhere in the dark reaches of space, other species were watching. Neutral observers who had once stayed silent saw what humans were doing. They whispered among themselves, "Perhaps humans are different. Perhaps we have misjudged them." But Mara did not fight for admiration. She did not fight for reward. She fought because it was the right thing to do. And in a galaxy that had long forgotten the meaning of right, that was enough. The first battle had been won, but the war was only beginning. Humanity had made a choice, and that choice would echo across the stars. Some would call it foolish. Others would call it brave. But the Eldari knew the truth. They were no longer alone. And that truth, fragile and bright, was enough to light a spark in the darkness. The galaxy watched in silence. From the distant corridors of power, the Dominion reported their defeat on Arvella's orbit. "Human intervention has slowed the conquest," the admiral admitted reluctantly. "But they are only one species. They cannot hold the line forever." Yet, as the Dominion recalculated their strategy, the humans on Arvella were not waiting for anyone's approval. They were already preparing. Captain Mara Ellison gathered her officers in the command tent, a structure built quickly from salvaged Eldari materials. "They'll return," she said, her voice calm but firm. "We've seen them. They have numbers. They have firepower. But they do not have what we have. They do not have courage. They do not have heart. And neither do we alone. But together we are unstoppable." The room fell silent. Humans and Eldari officers sat side by side, exchanging glances. They knew the truth. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and underestimated. Yet there was a quiet confidence in Mara's words. We will train tonight, she continued. Engineers get the shields repaired. Weapons teams reconfigure the satellites. Civilians get the emergency shelters ready. And everyone else learn from each other, teach each other, watch and learn. The Dominion will return. When they do, we will be ready. Human ingenuity became the lifeline of the abandoned species. Cargo ships were transformed into mobile defense platforms, powered by energy cores scavenged from derelict vessels. Fighters once used for trade became nimble combat craft. Drones were programmed to act autonomously, patrolling the skies above Arvella's cities. Every human on the planet had a purpose. Meanwhile, the Eldari learned lessons they had never imagined. Their delicate wings carried them over burning cities, carrying supplies to those in need. Their bioluminescent eyes scanned for hidden dangers, warning humans of incoming threats. Together, they created a defense network no one had predicted. Lieutenant Jonah Reyes became a symbol of hope. He moved through the battlefield like a shadow, saving lives, repairing weapons, and teaching alien allies human tactics. One night, he crouched in a ruined building, showing a group of Eldari soldiers how to use improvised explosives to delay enemy advances. Remember, he said, it's not about killing them all, it's about buying time, time to regroup, time to survive. The first weeks were grueling. Dominion attacks came in waves, testing the human-alien alliance. Each time they learned, adapted, and improved. But victory was never without cost. Entire neighborhoods were destroyed. Families were separated. The Eldari watched in horror as buildings they had built over centuries were reduced to rubble. Still, humans did not falter. We will rebuild, Mara told the survivors. And we will fight, again and again, until they learn that abandoning the weak is not acceptable. Even as they fought, humans showed another side of themselves, compassion. After a battle that left a district in ruins, human medics worked alongside Eldari healers, tending to injured civilians and soldiers alike. They shared food, water, and stories of Earth, a distant blue planet filled with oceans and mountains, where humans had faced adversity before. For the Eldari, these stories were foreign but inspiring. Your species you fight, yet you care for others, one elder said quietly to Mara. How can you do both? Mara smiled. Because that's what makes us human. We do not fight because we hate. We fight because we love, because we believe lives matter. Because we choose to act when others do not. That is our strength. But the cost of standing together was real. Dominion forces were relentless. In one attack, a squadron of human fighters was wiped out in a desperate maneuver to protect civilians fleeing a city under bombardment. Jonah Reyes barely escaped, carrying a small Eldari child in his arms as his ship's engine screamed and sparks flew. "Hold on," he shouted. "I've got you." After the battle, the survivors counted their losses. Dozens of humans, hundreds of Eldari civilians. The number was staggering, and yet morale remained high. Humans did not focus on what was lost. They focused on what remained and what they could still protect. In the aftermath, a council was formed, uniting humans and Eldari alike. Strategies were debated, defenses reinforced, and plans for counterattacks created. The Dominion had underestimated them. They thought the humans would be reckless, sentimental, foolish. They had misjudged humanity's determination. Every loss teaches us something, Mara said in the council meeting. Every failure is a lesson. Every survivor is proof that we can do this. The Dominion believes they can crush us with fear. We will crush them with courage. That courage inspired other species in nearby systems. Neutral planets, long silent, began sending covert support, supplies, intelligence, even volunteers. Humanity's example showed them that standing by the weak was not weakness, it was honor. One night, as the twin moons of Arvella hung low in the sky, Mara walked through a refugee camp. Eldari children played beside human children, sharing food, laughter, and stories. For a moment, The horrors of war faded. Here, in this small corner of the galaxy, something extraordinary was happening. Two species, so different in form, culture, and history, were learning to trust each other. They were becoming allies, friends, and family. But even as they celebrated these small victories, the humans knew the Dominion would not relent. Their next attack would be larger, more ruthless, and designed to break their spirit. Mara gathered her top officers once more. "They will come for us again," she said. "And this time it will not be enough to defend. We must strike back. We must show them that abandoning others is unacceptable. We will fight not just for Arvella, but for every world they have left behind. And we will win, because we are not alone." Training intensified. Human soldiers taught alien fighters to think strategically, to anticipate enemy moves, and to trust their instincts. Engineers worked day and night to improve defenses, creating innovations that had never existed before. Civilians became scouts, medics, and communication officers. Every individual, regardless of species, contributed to the fight. The Dominion, meanwhile, prepared their largest offensive yet. They believed humanity's compassion would be its downfall. They assumed the humans would prioritize life over strategy, emotion over logic. They were wrong. When the fleet finally arrived, it was a wall of steel and fire. Thousands of warships moved in formation, weapons primed, intent clear. Arvella's skies burned as missiles streaked across the horizon, but humans and Eldari had prepared. Mobile defense platforms intercepted incoming fire, while drones harassed enemy lines, causing confusion. Human fighter pilots weaved through the chaos, protecting civilian transports. Eldari warriors used their agility and knowledge of the terrain to ambush the enemy in ways the Dominion could not predict. The battle raged for hours. Explosions lit the night, the sound of energy weapons echoing across the cities. Jonah Reyes led a counterattack, guiding a group of young Eldari pilots in a daring maneuver that disabled a critical enemy cruiser. The Dominion fleet faltered, unable to anticipate the humans' improvisation and coordination. By dawn, the skies were quiet once more. The Dominion had withdrawn, leaving destruction in their wake, but they had not won. Humanity and the abandoned species had survived, stronger than before. Mara looked out over the city, smoke rising from the horizon. She knew this was just one battle. The war was far from over, but something had changed. The abandoned species were no longer hopeless. They were no longer alone, and the humans had proven that even against impossible odds, courage, ingenuity, and compassion could turn the tide. Eldari leaders approached Mara, bowing deeply. "You have done more than save us," one said. "You have shown us that life is worth fighting for, that even when the galaxy turns away, someone will stand with us. That is something we will never forget." Mara shook her head. "It was not just me. It was all of us. Humans, Eldari, every life that refused to give up. This is what happens when we choose to fight together. This is the cost and the reward of standing with those who are abandoned." And as the sun rose over the battered cities of Arvella, humanity and the abandoned species prepared for the next wave, ready to face whatever the Dominion would throw at them. For the first time in centuries, they believed they could survive. They believed they could win. And in the vast, uncaring galaxy, that belief was more powerful than any weapon. Because when humans stand with the weak, when they refuse to turn away, the galaxy learns a lesson it has forgotten. Courage, heart, and unity are forces stronger than fear, stronger than power, and stronger than any empire. And the galaxy had only just begun to understand. The galaxy was changing. Word of humanity's courage on Arvella spread quietly at first, whispered between neutral worlds and uneasy council members. Reports reached distant systems. Humans had not only defended a weak, abandoned species, they had done so with ingenuity, bravery, and an unwavering sense of justice. The Dominion did not like it. Their leaders had assumed the humans would be reckless, sentimental, foolish. They had misjudged the human spirit, and in misjudging humanity, they underestimated the consequences of abandoning the weak. Captain Mara Ellison stood in the command tent of the intrepid Horizon, overlooking the reconstruction efforts. She watched Eldari and human engineers work side by side, repairing shields, fortifying walls, and training new fighters. The humans had learned the Eldari's ways, and the Eldari had learned human tactics. Together, they had become a force neither species could have achieved alone. But Mara knew it was not enough to survive. Survival was only the first step. The Dominion would return, larger and more determined, and the galaxy would continue to abandon the weak unless someone changed the rules. "We've learned something important," Mara said to her officers. "The Dominion didn't abandon the Eldari because they're weak. They abandoned them because they're dangerous. They hold knowledge, skills, and history that could challenge the galactic order. That is why the galaxy turned its back. Fear, not reason, guided their choice." Her words hung heavy in the air. The officers absorbed the truth. The abandoned species were not defenseless. They had been underestimated. Humanity's role was not only to protect but to awaken that latent strength. Lieutenant Jonah Reyes paced the room, tension written across his face. "So, they left them to die because they were a threat. That makes no sense. You'd think they'd help them control that power." Mara shook her head. "No, they chose convenience over justice. They chose to ignore lives rather than risk change. And that is why humans are here, to prove that courage and morality are stronger than fear." The decision was made. Humanity would not wait for the Dominion to attack again. They would strike first, not for conquest, not for revenge, but to protect, to awaken, and to force the galaxy to witness a new standard of morality. Preparations began. Arvella's once quiet shipyards hummed with activity. Human engineers taught Eldari crews to retrofit civilian vessels into agile warships. Scientists shared knowledge across species, combining alien technology with human ingenuity. Weapons were upgraded, defenses strengthened, and strategies refined. But even as they prepared, the human leaders knew the greatest advantage was not machinery or firepower. It was the human spirit itself. Humanity had a willingness to take risks others would not. They had creativity, courage, and the ability to inspire those around them. And most importantly, they had allies who now trusted them completely. When the Dominion fleet reappeared, it was unlike anything Arvella had faced before. Hundreds of ships, bristling with weapons and shields, moved through the void with precision. Their goal was clear: eliminate the humans and finish what they had begun. But the humans and Eldari were ready. The battle began in silence as fleets circled each other like predators. Then chaos erupted. Humans and Eldari used unconventional tactics. Smaller, faster ships darted between larger vessels, disabling key systems before the Dominion could respond. Energy pulses created temporary shields, allowing civilian transports to escape. Drones acted independently, striking with surgical precision. Jonah Reyes led a squadron of human fighters in a daring maneuver, weaving through the Dominion's defenses to disable a flagship's engines. "We're not just fighting to survive," he shouted over the comms. "We're showing them what it means to be human, and we fight for those they abandoned." The Dominion was unprepared for this level of coordination. Their fleets moved in rigid formations, expecting predictable reactions. Instead, they faced adaptability, courage, and teamwork at a level they had never imagined. Every human action was mirrored by Eldari allies, creating a network of resistance that the Dominion could not break. Meanwhile, Mara took the intrepid Horizon into the heart of the battle. From her vantage point, she observed the chaos, issuing orders that seemed reckless but always worked. She directed reinforcements to the points of greatest need, coordinated surprise attacks, and ensured that no civilian vessel was left unprotected. Hours passed, and the Dominion began to falter. Their confidence, built on centuries of fear, was shaken. They had underestimated humans and the power of choice. They had assumed fear and convenience would dictate action. Instead, they faced courage, unity, and determination. In the midst of the battle, Mara discovered the Dominion's hidden agenda. Their intelligence files, captured from a disabled cruiser, revealed that the abandoned species held ancient technology capable of destabilizing entire sectors. The galaxy had not abandoned them out of apathy, they had abandoned them out of fear. The revelation was staggering. "This changes everything," Mara said to her officers. "They're dangerous not because of what they are, but because of what they could teach others. And that is exactly why we must stand." This knowledge fueled the humans and their allies. They fought harder, moved faster, and coordinated more effectively. Each strike, each maneuver was a declaration. We will not abandon the weak. We will not be silenced by fear. By the end of the day, the Dominion had suffered devastating losses. Ships were destroyed, fleets scattered, and morale shattered. Humans and their allies had survived once more. And they had done more. They had sent a message to the galaxy. It was a message that would not be ignored. Courage and morality could overcome fear and tyranny. Humans had proven that the choice to stand with the weak was not foolish. It was powerful. In the aftermath, the abandoned species began to realize their own potential. Eldari engineers began to explore their ancient technology, unlocking secrets long forgotten. They learned new ways to defend themselves, not just with human help but with their own abilities. Humans guided them, but they did not take control. They taught, they inspired, they stood beside them. Jonah Rays walked among the survivors, helping repair a damaged vessel. A young Eldari boy approached him, wings trembling with excitement. "Do you think we can really fight them off next time?" he asked. Jonah smiled. "We've already done it once, and next time we'll do it even better. Humans don't give up, and neither do our friends." Mara Ellison, standing on a hill overlooking the rebuilt city, knew the real war was far from over. The Dominion would return, stronger and more determined. Other species in the galaxy would continue to watch, fearful of humanity's example. Yet she felt no fear. Humanity's actions had inspired hope, unity, and courage. They had ignited a spark that could not be extinguished. The galaxy had tried to abandon them. It had tried to silence the weak, to prioritize fear over justice. But humanity had chosen differently. And that choice would echo across the stars. Humans had decided not to leave. They would fight. They would protect. And they would prove that courage, compassion, and unity were forces stronger than fear, more powerful than tyranny, and more enduring than any empire. As night fell over Arvella, the stars above seemed brighter than ever. Fires burned in the distance, marking both destruction and rebirth. Human and Eldari soldiers patrolled together, their bonds stronger than the ships or weapons around them. Mara knew that victory was not only measured in battles won, but in lives saved, hearts inspired, and the legacy left behind. Humanity had awakened something in the galaxy, a reminder that the weak are never truly weak when someone chooses to stand with them. And somewhere beyond the stars, other species were taking notice. The message was clear. When humans decide to fight, they do so with purpose, with courage, and with a conviction that cannot be shaken. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. That would be its greatest mistake. And the war was only beginning. The Dominion had returned. Their fleets were larger, faster, and more deadly than ever. Word had spread across the galaxy of humanity's courage on Arvella, and the coalition saw it as a threat that must be crushed. Their strategy was simple: overwhelm the humans, destroy the abandoned species, and remind the galaxy that defiance would not be tolerated. But humans had prepared. They had learned, adapted, and grown stronger with every battle. And this time they would not only defend, they would lead. Captain Mara Ellison stood on the bridge of the intrepid Horizon, surveying the stars. The fleet before them was immense, but she did not flinch. Humans had always thrived under pressure, using creativity and courage to overcome impossible odds. Today would be no different. "We fight not just for Arvella," Mara said, addressing the council of human and alien leaders gathered around her. "We fight for every species abandoned by the galaxy. We fight for the weak, the overlooked, the forgotten. And we will not back down. Today, we show the galaxy that humanity stands with those who cannot fight alone." The Eldari leader, High Elder Surith, nodded solemnly. "Your courage has inspired us, humans. We are ready to stand with you." Together, they launched their fleet. Ships of all sizes, shapes, and technologies moved in precise formation, a symbol of unity and defiance. Human pilots led squadrons of Eldari fighters, while civilians operated support ships, providing fuel, repairs, and medical aid. Every individual had a role, every action mattered. The battle began with a roar. The Dominion fleet unleashed volleys of missiles and energy blasts, aiming to crush the defenders before they could react. But the humans had anticipated this. Their ships moved unpredictably, weaving through enemy lines, using decoys and improvised shields. Drones acted as scouts and defenders, confusing the enemy and targeting weak points in their formation. Jonah Reyes, now a veteran of countless battles, led a daring maneuver to disable the Dominion's central command ship. "Follow me," he shouted over the comms. "We hit their heart and the rest will fall apart." The Dominion fleet faltered. Their rigid strategies could not adapt to the unpredictable human tactics. Every move by humans inspired their allies to act with more courage, more creativity, more determination. It was not just a battle of ships and weapons. It was a battle of spirit, heart, and willpower. In the midst of the chaos, Mara discovered the Dominion's ultimate weapon, a massive superweapon capable of destroying entire planetary systems. It was hidden in the center of their formation, protected by layers of defense. Destroying it would be nearly impossible, but humanity never chose the easy path. Mara coordinated a multi-pronged attack. Human and Eldari pilots created distractions, drawing enemy ships away, while engineers prepared a strike team to penetrate the defenses. Jonah led the team in, navigating through a hail of energy beams, debris, and enemy fighters. "Focus," Jonah shouted. "For Arvella. For the abandoned, for every life they left behind." They reached the weapon. Using knowledge combined from both human engineering and Eldari technology, they sabotaged its core. A massive explosion rocked the enemy formation, disabling their communications and power systems. Ships scattered in panic. The Dominion's control shattered. The battle did not end immediately. Skirmishes continued as the remaining Dominion forces tried to regroup, but the humans and their allies had momentum. Every action was coordinated, every attack precise. Slowly the Dominion retreated, their fleets broken, their morale shattered. When the dust settled, Arvella floated in quiet triumph. The humans and Eldari had survived. They had won. And more importantly, they had sent a message across the galaxy. Abandoning the weak would no longer be tolerated. In the days that followed, humanity helped the Eldari rebuild. Entire cities, once burned and broken, were restored with new technology and innovative designs. Training programs were established, teaching defense, strategy, and collaboration. The Eldari had not only survived, they had grown stronger than ever, guided by the humans who had chosen to stand by their side. Mara and her team did not seek power or recognition. They had fought for justice, for life, and for hope. And the galaxy could not ignore the lesson humanity had taught. Courage, compassion, and unity were stronger than fear, domination, and selfish ambition. Word spread to other systems. Planets that had once remained silent began to act. They sent resources, aid, and support to worlds abandoned by the galaxy. Humanity's example had ignited a spark, a movement that reminded the galaxy of a truth long forgotten. Every life mattered. High Elder Surith approached Mara during a ceremony honoring the survivors. "You have not only saved us," he said, "you have changed us, and you have changed the galaxy." Mara smiled. "We did it together, humans, Eldari, everyone who refused to turn away. This is proof that standing for what is right is never wrong. That courage is contagious, and hope is unstoppable." Even as they celebrated, Mara knew the galaxy would continue to challenge them. There would always be threats, dangers, and tyrants who sought control. But now there was a precedent. Now there was proof that when humanity chose to fight alongside the abandoned, impossible odds could be overcome. Jonah Reyes stood among a group of young Eldari recruits. "Remember this," he said. "We did not win because of ships or weapons. We won because we chose to stand with those who had no one else. Never forget that." And the galaxy remembered. The Dominion, defeated but not destroyed, would think twice before abandoning any species again. Neutral worlds, once fearful and silent, now acted with courage. The humans had set a new standard, a standard of morality, bravery, and unwavering support for the weak. Mara watched the stars above Arvella, the same stars that had once seemed so distant, so uncaring. Now they seemed alive with possibility. Humanity had proven that even in a galaxy that had long forgotten the meaning of compassion, courage could shine brighter than any weapon, stronger than any fleet, and more enduring than any empire. She turned to the council assembled before her. "This is not the end," she said. "It is only the beginning. Together, we will protect the weak, challenge injustice, and show the galaxy that when humans choose to fight, they do so with purpose, heart, and determination. The galaxy may have abandoned them once, but humanity will never abandon those who cannot defend themselves." And so, a new era began, one where humanity's courage became a beacon for all who had been ignored, one where abandoned species were no longer left to suffer. One where the galaxy learned that the true measure of strength was not in fleets, weapons, or empires, but in the hearts of those who refused to turn away. The galaxy had been tested. Humanity had stood beside the abandoned. And in doing so, they had changed the course of history forever. The stars shone brighter over Arvella that night, as humans and Eldari celebrated not only victory but unity, hope, and the enduring power of courage. And somewhere across the galaxy, countless species whispered in awe and respect. When the galaxy turns away, humanity stands.